Hey everybody, I'm Carla with Race to Walk. Sorry, this is another episode in Hack the Saga, and this is the way things have been working. I have literally right before this stream, I discovered that there were more things that had been hacked, so it kind of threw off my getting things together a little bit. But anyway, let me repeat this. This is Hacked the Saga, Hacked, the Saga, because people who have been sabotaging my videos really love to cut off the ED at the end of hacked. So usually what they do is they edit the transcripts and sabotage it. The last one, if you go back and look at the one from last week, they literally altered the video and cut it out. So just to be clear, but this is episode number 69 in the series, and a few weeks ago I started a sub-series in this called Defense Against Digital Dark Arts. So what is this? This is just how I got involved in this. I was a third grade Sunday school teacher. I graduated from the Houston Baptist University master's program in cultural apologetics in 2017. I had been blogging at my website at raisetowalk.org since 2013, and in 2018 I started, along with some other people from the apologetics program, a cultural apologetics journal called An Unexpected Journal. And I was writing a lot. In 2019, I also started doing live stream Bible studies on YouTube and also book reviews. And I started getting hacked in December of 2023. I started reporting it to authorities in April of 2024 when I had definite proof that it was actually a hack. And then they did nothing. They blew me off. I filed another report a month later when I discovered there was a bootleg copy of the journal that was being published online. Again, FBI didn't even give a report number, and the local police that I reported it to was like, well, we can't really do anything about it. So I wrote a 200-page report. Because at first I knew two of the people that were involved behind this massive fake accounts that were posting on social media. And so in addition to all the sabotage against me, I also created a report about what was going on, why these fake accounts were harmful for more, going beyond just me, right? It wasn't just me that they were sabotaging. And I had, it ended up being 200 pages, and it had 46 areas of criminal activity that the sock puppet network was engaged in. I submitted that on July 28th, 2024. And then on August 3rd, was it August 3rd? Let me see. This is my first live stream in this series. August 4th, I'm sorry. I should know this by heart. In 2024, I did a 3-hour live stream called The Message to My Stalker because I had basically stopped. So let me just give a little stop and give a little note. Do you see why there's a little block ahead of me? I don't know, somehow they've gotten into my stuff and they're altering things on the screen. I just put this up and it wasn't here. So anyway, they added another camera there that is not, there isn't any, right? So that's just evidence of the ongoing harassment, stalking, hacking, identity theft, intellectual property theft, literal theft of money and property. And I've reported thousands and thousands of words, multiple different authorities. No one's done anything. And I guess at this point, the perpetrators behind it, which happen to be the people that I know from Houston Baptist University, including Phil Talon, and the people that I thought I was a friend to them. They were hidden enemies, people that were involved with An Unexpected Journal, including Grant Broadhurst and Jason Smith, Annie Nardoni, Jasmine Biggs. They had this whole little crew of fraudsters going on. That's not all of them. That's just the ones that I'm naming at the moment. Anyway, I guess at this point they just figure, you know, they've committed so many crimes. What's a few more felonies, right? So anyway, just that's what that was. That was evidence of more sabotage of the stream. So the other thing that they happen to do while I'm on the stream is sometimes they'll interfere with it so that when I'm talking about things that they really want to cover up, they'll try to freeze the video. And so I might turn off my video and turn it back on. And that's what's, because it kind of breaks it and resets it. So anyway, that is what this series is about. And so I've just been doing, since authorities won't respond, and I guess in Oregon, hacking isn't a crime. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is. I honestly don't know what a crime is here. But I've just been live streaming it all, documenting what happens as it happens. So this is just an overview of it. Again, this is episode number 69. You can see all of these. I have the dates in an overview. And there, within this, you know, what is this, a year and a half? It's over a year and a half now that I've been live streaming. There have been a few kind of some series. So one of them was when I just happened across a fraudulent sheriff sale where they stole a property based on faked mortgage documents. And the property was out in state in Oregon. And so if you go to Marion County Property Fraud Investigation, those are the live streams that I did on that particular issue. And then also on this most recent one, Defense Against Digital Dark Arts, I'm compiling all of those in another series. So there's some other little segments I might break off, but this is, if you go to my website at raisedtowalk.org, hack the saga, you can see that. So that's enough on that. Yeah, so what we're going to be covering in this stream, and this is just a little bit of it's related. It's actually it's related because I was talking about, you know, securing your devices, all of this, securing your intellectual property, documenting a couple of the live streams that I've done on this. It's about creating an investigative dossier because this is the thing. What they're like, I'm trying to think of a good, the only thing that comes to my mind right now is like roaches. I mean, they do things that are low enough harassment. I mean, some of it isn't even low. I mean, straight up stealing stuff, you know, having people come towards you and harass you, that isn't low harassment. But generally speaking, what they do is that they'll do things to screw with you. This is what the people that I know. This is how white evangelicals that decide that they're above the law and they're criminals, this is what they do. And then when I document it, then they'll flip it back or change it. Some of the things they can't because, you know, some of the things have been massive sabotage. But I'm just talking generally. So when manipulators and abusers target somebody, they only get away with it as long as other people don't know, right? So they're usually, at least the people I know, they don't want to acknowledge the things that they've done. And so they need to like basically make it seem like the person that is that they're targeting, that what they're saying isn't true, right? And so sometimes it is a lot of low-level harassment that any one thing, it sounds like you're exaggerating or making a mountain out of a molehill. But looking at it cumulatively over time, it's a lot. And so what I have been, I mean, I have so many screenshots of every single thing. I mean, it is unbelievable. It's almost like they think their purpose in life is to target me. I mean, and this is, I know why it is. It's because they present themselves as, they're professional Christians. They basically make a living off of, ghostwriting for pastors, using stolen and plagiarized work, doing social media for influencers, which, their success is sabotaging competitors and basically hijacking interaction or like subscriptions from people. I don't know if you've paid attention to who you subscribe to on social media, but I've cleaned out my accounts so many times that it's obvious when they do this, but they'll move me as a follower on an account like Silverton Inn and Sweets. I never followed them. Why would I? But I just went through and was looking through my accounts and on Twitter, and I was following them. Why is this? Because they just can, right? And so if they get a client and they say, oh, okay, we'll get you more followers, we'll do this, this, and this, we get, these are real followers and real growth. It's not real growth because the person didn't willingly subscribe, but they're real followers because they hijack your subscription. Like, they force your follow. So that's one thing. The other thing that we talked about a little bit last week, I think, is they replace, like, they'll create a duplicate of somebody right? So you actually know the person, but they'll take a duplicate of their accounts, because how often do people actually look at the screen name on different social media accounts? They don't, right? And then they basically replace their fake account with your real friend. So they have this, whether they're just being creepy and want to get into your life, or they want to fake the influence, right? And they want to be promoting things in front of you. I don't know. I don't operate like that, so I don't really understand the whole thing. But that is just one of the things. But what I was saying about documenting it is that, again, if you just go to somebody and say, or go to authorities and say, okay, this is my friend, right? And this is not their account. First of all, at least what I've been told here in Oregon, which I don't think this is true, that somebody impersonates another person to you, they don't think that's, at least the people I've talked to, don't think that's a crime. I don't agree, but I'm not an attorney. It's fraudulent. It's manipulation. I don't know. It's identity theft. The person who they're impersonating can report it, right? And that would be identity theft. Again, what I've run into is that the authorities don't seem to take it seriously unless if that person's gotten money from that impersonation. That's another crime. That's fraud. Identity theft, it's its own thing. So I'm just saying, if you just say this person impersonated, or somebody impersonated my friend to me, and this is one account, right? Are they going to do anything about it? Probably not. So I don't think that it's unusual that I'm the only person that once they start impersonating you and use your accounts, it's like they think they own you, and they don't give them up. I mean, even once you find out and try to lock them out, they, once they start using it, they think, they're offended that you don't want them in their accounts, and they just keep on. Literally, this is what happened today, and then I'll just go over what we're going to be going over the stream. They have, I can't remember what it's called, but I've read something about it, but they have devices that they can basically, if they're in close proximity to you, they can hijack your sessions, right? So what that means is, it's like somebody giving you, let's say you go to a hotel room, right? So the social media platform is a hotel, and they give you a key, right? Your username and password, you create a password and username. That's your key into your room in this hotel. So this is how you get into your social media account, right? Your account, your room, nobody else should be coming into that space. Well, what they do is they basically, it's like somebody coming and grabbing your key, your hotel room key out of your hands and like pushing you out, and then you have to, you may be able to, or at least making a dupe of it. No, actually, it's like they basically take your key and then they go into your room. Because once that happens, you'll be logged out of your account. So if you have any, this is 3 things to watch out for session hijacking. Number 1, if you know you were logged into an account and you're suddenly logged out, that is a clear sign that that session has been hijacked. You need to log into your account and check. This is what, okay, so when we're talking about documenting, take a screenshot that you were logged out. Make a note of it. Log into your account, and if you can, look at the sessions and see who else is logged in, right? You're probably going to have to change, or so you take a screenshot of that, the full screen of showing all the logins, and then click on the session and take a screenshot of that as well. Honestly, a lot of social media accounts don't really, our platforms don't really show a lot of detail about that. So I don't know. I realize that Twitter has some of them have an option where you can download a log of all the activity on your accounts. But anyway, and then change your password. But that is, you may think, oh, okay, well, that's just kind of a weird thing. No, and you may not think that you've been anywhere where that would have happened. It can literally happen anywhere. Like here in Salem, it doesn't matter. I go into Broadway Coffee. I like literally anytime I go in there, some losers coming in, and like I think trying to steal the sessions or something. I don't know. And it's people that you probably think, because they don't have to be. I think there's a couple of things. I think that they can be somebody who is actively going for sessions. And this is a thing, especially if there's a crime ring running in a community, they can be gathering. And this is what we covered last week. Go back and watch that other live stream about journaling the journey, right? It's that they can be getting, just using AI, they can be collecting all this information about what they call it, like your social exhaust, like just all these things that you're doing, and creating profiles on people in a community. So if you're going somewhere and they're targeting a particular community, and they're just getting, they may be profiling, people in the area, and then just seeing who they can get logins to and what kind of things that they can take over. That's what I think. So that's number 1. Number 1 is if you are logged out all of a sudden and you didn't log out, that's a clear sign of it. The other thing is that if you, this will happen sometimes if you change a password and then the password doesn't take, and you have to go log in, you have to either change the password or log in again, right? If you have to do 2 logins, then that's probably, somebody's probably come in behind you and got another session. The other thing is that, what was the other one? Oh, this happened the other day on, what was I logging into? It was Google. Yeah, Google's like really bad about this. I logged in and it took the login, but then I guess it was kind of the same thing. It went to another screen after that and was prompting a login, but I was actually already logged in. So since I didn't go through that second login, then it's kind of similar to number 2, but it's a little bit different. So if your password doesn't take and you have to enter it again, it could have been that you actually were logged in, but they're making you think that you didn't because they got into the first one, right? They got into the first login, and so you're entering it into the second. And then this other one is literally having another screen beyond that first login. So those are 3 ways that they can hijack your session. But anyway, if things are, like I said, these crime rings, people think that they're off in Nigeria or Southeast Asia or wherever. It's probably not. You're probably being targeted by local people, and could they be stopped? Yeah, but people have to want to, and if just my experience with law enforcement, they're not going to do anything unless if there is like an overwhelming push from more than one person that there actually is a problem. That's just my personal opinion. But so that was one thing that isn't on this list, but we're going to talk a little bit about some things that came up that are related to this in the news this week. So first of all, we're going to be talking about what CALEA is. I didn't know what it was until this week, and it explained a lot about how some of my things had been hacked. Like, not only hacked, actually it wasn't even that. I've had multiple times when I've had people call me that I know were not, I guess if somebody calls you, they can be spoofing the number and then using a voice clone to impersonate somebody. But even when I've called other people, sometimes there's been a number of times when I'm thinking after I talked to the person, I don't think that was actually them, just from things that we're saying. So interception of calls. I know that my phones have, my numbers have been blocked and restricted. Like, it's sometimes I can't even get a confirmation text to be able to log into my accounts because my line is blocked. So, and I was like, what is this? Well, I don't know exactly how the criminals behind this have been doing it, but what we're going to be talking today about CALEA which is we'll cover it a little bit. That's one way that it could be happening. And then we're going to be talking about the expose that had the Chinese use of CALEA. They've actually used, it's a built-in backdoor into cellular services so that law enforcement can get into it, right? And so they're not supposed to unless if they have a warrant. But, don't tell me that unauthorized access doesn't happen. But not only, it's not just federal authorities, it's that hackers have used that same backdoor that's built into the cellular network, and they've used it to intercept and listen in on calls for like the British politicians, like Downing Street, for years. Also on JD Vance and Donald Trump. So just think about that. If the people who are in the highest political positions in the world are having their phones hacked through this back door, and they have probably the best security that there is, what chance do you have? Seriously, what chance do you have to protect against it? So anyway, then we're going to be talking about, because this ties into it, the dark mark of U.S. surveillance. And then the other one is an Oregon story. It's the Erik Oelker indictment. I'm not sure if I'm saying his last name right. There some interesting details about that. And then honestly, I kind of flip this a little bit. I probably won't go into a protection checklist because we talked about some session hijacking. So, and then we're going to go into a Q&A. So anyway, moving on. So what is CALEA? So this is I'm just going to read this. This is a security expert that is basically testified before Congress on why he thought that CALEA should be this law. It's a 1994 law that forces telecoms to make phone calls wiretappable, and it because it's outdated in today's threat environment and should be rethought. So this is a direct quote. In other words, while the legally mandated CALEA capability requirements have changed little over the last 3 decades, the infrastructure that must implement and protect it has changed radically. This has greatly expanded the attack surface that must be defended to prevent unauthorized wiretaps, especially at scale. The job of the illegal eavesdropper has gotten significantly easier, with many more options and opportunities for them to exploit. Compromising our telecommunications infrastructure is now little different from performing any other kind of computer intrusion or data breach, a well-known and endemic cybersecurity problem. To put it bluntly, something like Salt Typhoon was inevitable. Okay, so what Salt Typhoon is the Chinese hacking group that got into JD Vance's, Donald Trump's, and the British politicians, their phone. I mean, he's saying it's not a surprise. I mean, the thing is, there's probably a lot more. There is a lot more hacking that's and eavesdropping and wiretapping and phone control that's going on that doesn't make the news, right? Okay. It will likely happen again unless significant changes are made. Let me tell you what is happening. This is a process that the Chinese threat actor Salt Typhoon used to spy on Americans. The Wall Street Journal first reported on Friday. So this was back in, okay, this is where, this is saying April 8th of 2025. But I think I saw an article about this has been going on since 2024. Yeah, October 25th, 2024. The New York Times had an article about it, but it's been making the rounds again recently. They've been talking about this. So anyway, so this is not new, or it's, I mean, obviously the act is, 30 years old, but the fact that it's being exploited by hackers, and they're just saying hackers. I mean, it's this, in this context, what they're reporting about, it's like, oh, this is, super secret. They're just trying to get national secrets, which is probably true. But the thing is, like we discussed last week, crime syndicates are really, they're not really going so much after the big guns. I mean, these are probably state, I don't know, but I'm assuming that this hacking group is probably state sponsored, right, by the Chinese government. But generally speaking, the hackers can get they're going for low dollar amounts, right? And so if they can just call and impersonate people, intercept phone calls, businesses, key people, causing disruption, causing people to, their certain people to lose clients so their businesses can get it, right? I don't even know how you secure your phone calls so that you know that the person that you're talking to is actually the person that you think you are. I don't even know, with the amount of fraud. I mean, just with the things I've experienced. I mean, I don't think that this is unusual. Honestly, I'm sure that there's a lot of other people that this is happening to. Okay, so let me go back to this. So the Wall Street Journal first reported Friday that a Chinese government hacking group, oh yeah, it is a Chinese government hacking group, dubbed Salt Typhoon, broke into 3 of the largest U.S. internet providers, including AT&T, Lumen, formerly CenturyLink, and Verizon, to access systems they use for facilitating customer data to law enforcement and governments. See, if this data collection wasn't there, then it wouldn't have been there to hack, right? Yeah. The hacks reportedly may have resulted in the vast collection of internet traffic from the telecom and internet giants. CNN and the Washington Post also confirmed the intrusions that the U.S. government investigation is in its early stages. So this was a year ago, right? Or almost a year ago. This one came out. The New York Times article was in October of 2024. So this isn't, again, it's not a new thing. But I think that, you know, Bruce, so what is he? This is Bruce Schneider. That's an interesting last name. Okay, not Schneider, Schneider. Okay. And he says he's a public interest technologist working in the intersection of security, technology, and people. I've been writing about security issues on my blog since 2004 and in my monthly newsletter since 1998. I'm a fellow and lecturer at Harvard's Kennedy School, a board member of EFF. Oh, interesting. So that's the Electronic Frontier Foundation, and the chief of security architecture at Erupt Inc. This personal website expresses the opinions of none of those organizations. So this is somebody who is very involved in that space. And it sounds like he knows what he's talking about. But again, you know, I don't, you know, for a country that were founded on personal freedom, right? The right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, we really don't really have very many protections for our privacy, or if we do, they're not being enforced. And the, you know, people are basically being consumed through their data. Like, you know, these tech companies are like cannibals. Basically, they're, you know, taking all your data, and they may have, I mean, what we need, I think, is just like a basic checklist, just with the assumption that people don't like to be creeped on, right? We don't like to be creeped on. And if, you know, that when you're selling somebody's personal information, you're basically selling a piece of them, right? And we outlawed chattel slavery over 100 years ago. And it doesn't seem to me like the tech companies are really clued in on that. So I think we need to start looking at it in that way, because here's what's going on. Oh my gosh, this is so annoying. I'm gonna have to go against without my laptop for a little bit because, and the screen share, because my computer froze. So what was I saying? Okay, the checklist. I mean, I think the assumption should be that Americans don't like to be creeped on, right? And that when you're selling people's data, you're really selling a piece of them. And it's really, you know, I titled this part from the Ministry of Magic to the Ministry of Surveillance, U.S. Surveillance, because what they want all this, what is the point of all this data, right? It's creepy. I mean, it's just outright creepy. And besides that, it's, you know, the only purpose for that is for manipulation and control, right? And that is a definition of witchcraft. It's manipulation and control. So I just, personally, I think that the level of, I mean, okay, I just want to make a note of this. I think that there's probably some sort of access to my laptop right now. We'll just see if I can get this to start. But I just restarted my laptop, and then there was like a terminal window that came up. So who knows? I don't even know what. Like I said, they never give up. I mean, they obviously think that their win is disrupting what I do. I'm sorry, but that's lame. Anyway, So, yeah, there's no point to it. They don't need all that information. It should be on a need-to-know basis, right? And we used to have that sort of idea that you don't just take people's information and collect it, because it's not only that individual business that collects it, they share it with other businesses. It's like, oh yeah, this is our people, right? This is our customers. This is information we've collected on these people, and then we'll sell you that information. Are they giving the person whose information that they are selling a portion of that money? I haven't gotten any. How many times has your information been sold? Have you been paid for it? No. No. Did you license that information to them? No. So if they're not paying you for details of your life, then either that's theft or that's slavery, because you're not getting compensated for providing that information, right? So anyway, that is just my thought. Let me see if I can get back on here. Anyway, so we're going to go to the next one, and there is some sort of interference because I can't connect to the internet now. Let me see if I can do this. Okay. All right. It'll take me a minute. Okay. I'm going to go to it. You can look up his name is Erik Oelker. Anyway, this was a story that's been running on the news for a few days, and there was a guy, they said he shot at a couple of police officers in Portland. And so his arraignment was this week, and there was a video that so there's news articles and there's a video, and so I watched the video of parts of his testimony, or not his testimony, because he wouldn't have an opportunity to testify. Part of his appearance at this. Sorry, I'm trying to get my VPN going on here. It's not opening. Anyway, his attorney, court-appointed attorney, was there supposedly speaking for him, and Mr. Oekler said that this person doesn't speak for me. Like, he didn't want this court-appointed attorney. And if you read the news articles, it says that he was yelling over the judge and his attorney, and he had several outbursts. So it makes it sound like he's like, like mentally unstable or out of it or something. I watched the video. He was not, at least parts I watched, he wasn't yelling. He was just stating, this person doesn't speak for me. And then that was it. But one of the things he said was that what was it? Okay, let me see. Let me see if I can open it up. Here's the thing. I don't have okay, here's the thing. My Proton VPN, this is what happened. My computer froze. When I restarted it, there was some sort of terminal window that showed. And then it took a minute to connect to the internet. And then now when I'm trying to start my VPN, the program's not loading. And I could go into it without the VPN, but if I do that, if I open up my laptop again and get into the live stream without having that VPN on, I know they're going to screw with the feed. So anyway, I'm not going to do that. But otherwise, I would be showing this to you because I have it loaded. Okay. Let me go down. I'm just going to do this. So anyway, a couple of things. One of the things he said was that the U.S. government, or that people, I don't know who he was saying exactly, was using AI and illegal neurotransmitters against the American public and Christians. And I can't remember the last thing, but that was all that they showed. And then, so the news is basically making it seem like, and the articles and the commentary is making it seem like he's just kind of out there. So here's what I have to say about this. I don't know what specifically he was referring to. I don't know what, he said that he shot at a couple of officers. I don't know what that was about. I don't know why he doesn't want his court-appointed attorney, or maybe he doesn't trust them or feels like he's being railroaded. I don't know. But what he's saying is not out there or crazy or unreasonable, because so our brain communicates by neurotransmitters, right? And we are affected by the things that we see, by the things we experience, by what we eat, right? And so when you're talking about manipulation of that, right, like how our brain responds, and that things that can alter that, it's very well documented that things like social media, right, change that. It literally changes our response, changes our brain chemistry. And so when, this is ridiculous. I'm sorry, I'm still trying to connect the VPN. Anyway, so if there's mass manipulation of things that we're seeing every day, right, then, and it's not disclosed, then that should be illegal. If it's not, it should be. And we know that that's going on, right? We know that's going on. There was the whole Cambridge Analytica scandal after the 2016 election, and that was targeting people individually to influence their vote by what they saw on social media. That's not a conspiracy, that's actual fact. There's been congressional hearings about that. The entire online advertising agency industry changed because of that scandal. And as I've been talking about for the past year and a half, now I was going to be sharing my screen, and since my VPN won't start, I guess I'm not going to be doing that. But let me just say, I always put up an episode article after the stream, and I'll put all these links in there about what I'm talking about. So anyway, because I found a lot of really good resources, but that's not a conspiracy, right? I've been talking about for the past year and a half of these mass amounts of sock puppet accounts, these fake accounts that are run by AI, right? And that they basically use AI to replicate real people. Like my Facebook account, when they took over, hacked all my accounts, and took over basically every single account I had in August of 2024, they rebuilt my entire profile impersonating people that I knew. Okay, so if I wasn't aware that those were fake accounts, then that would have, they could have they've tried to, oh, nobody's listening to you. Oh, nobody's responding to you. Oh, that's the manipulation. This is the type of stuff that they do just to malice and just to manipulate you. The Department of Defense, which is now known as the Department of War, they've contracted with agencies to run I don't even know the logic of this, but to do a mass amount of sock puppet accounts basically is propaganda. This is fact. This is absolute fact. So I don't know what specifically Erik Oelker was referring to, if it's about manipulating things people see, that's absolutely going on. It's absolutely going on. Every single social media platform where you have to log in before you can see a public profile, they are controlling what you see based on your IP address, based on who you are and where you are. A few weeks ago, because I know like my Twitter account is like completely screwed, right? And it seems like this is what it seems like they've done on almost all my accounts. I shared this last week where they had my Apple account that was on my Apple, where I published through Apple Books, that it was basically on restricted access. I didn't even have full access to my own account. And I think that's basically what's been going on with my other profiles that I'm like on a subsidiary account, that somebody else has more control over my account than I do. But so I thought, okay, I'm going to create an account on Twitter and just see, what the difference is. And so let me tell you, I went and I created a new account. I was on a Canadian IP address on a VPN. And when I created the account, it said follow at least one account. I could pick just one, right? And then I went through and I was just looking for, my goal was to find some real accounts to interact with that I was interested in. So I was searching out some hashtags. There were some posts I could tell, like even like videos were AI generated, right? But let me tell you, it was an entirely different world, entirely different experience on Twitter versus the crap that I've been seeing. We're completely surrounded by a bunch of fake ass accounts. I highly recommend it. If you want to like interact with real people, then forget any US based account. That means you have to do a web account, because when I did the same thing on the same IP address and went through an app which was tied to the US store, completely different. There were accounts that didn't even show up when I created the account through the App Store. I did a search on the same hashtags, didn't even see the same real accounts. Couldn't even find real people on some of the ones that I had found before. Also, when I signed up, it said you have to sign up for at least one, but you can't follow at least one account, but you couldn't actually just follow one. They had groups of accounts in certain interests, and you couldn't unselect any of them. You just had to follow the whole group. And so I was following one on journalism, and there was this random sock puppet account that was in with all, like CNN, ProPublica, all that was in with that. What is that? I don't even know, but this is what you get if you have an account based in the US. And you want to know what I think? I think it's because all the crap accounts that I'm surrounded by on Twitter, those are propaganda accounts. And I think that Elon Musk and Twitter know, X, I forgot X, that's what it's called now. Anyway, they know that if they run the same plays against, especially, the European Union citizens, they're going to get banned. There's already talk about banning Twitter because of, the things that are running on there. Apparently, in the land of the free and the home of the brave, we don't get those protections. We just are there to be manipulated and used. I guess that's what it is. So again, I don't know what Erik Oelker is. I don't know what he's referring to. I don't know, because I haven't seen more of the story. But the other thing, okay, so just propaganda through media, there's all kinds of it. I mean, there's all kinds of it going on. It's not a conspiracy theory. There's been research, there's been studies, there's been congressional hearings about it. That is absolutely happening. The other thing that he could be talking about, which I'm not sure, but he could be talking about actual mental manipulation. And so back in, this is just like a thing that they're experimenting with, controlling how your brain works through AI. Actual thing. I was in a store the other day, and they had AI glasses, and I'm thinking, Why would you want that? That is creepy. But I guess I don't even know. When they were explaining it, I'm like, that just sounds super, super creepy to me. A post came across my feed on Twitter today that Google is coming out with a new browser that can just basically live your life for you or take care of everything for you. Don't do that. Don't give control over your actions, your emails, your bank accounts, anything to freaking AI. There's this false belief that AI is unbiased and more trustworthy. It's not. I said this in my first live stream. AI can quantify, it can't qualify. It can't qualify. It can't distinguish between is this a valid information or not, and it's very easily manipulated. If you go back and watch the live stream that I did in September of last year, How to Survive the Rapture, I was talking about the theft of my Bible study teacher, David Bauer, of his work, and how he was basically, his identity was basically subsumed by a fake account. And the way they did that was they were planting false information across the internet in strategic ways so that David, as a real person, was this fake persona, basically took it over. And David's work was being credited to this fake account that had been, they created a plagiarized book off of David's own work. And then his identity was taken over by this fake account. Here's the thing. At this point, my recommendation is go to a dumb phone, print things out on paper, have real books, right? Real physical books that that it's not going to be altered on your Kindle, anyway. So that's one thing. The other thing that he might be talking about is that for the past, since the 1960s, so that is 60 years, right? The U.S. government has been researching what they call synthetic telepathy, right? How you can communicate by thought. If you search for this on the news, now I think that it's starting to become more discussed because it's, that's actually kind of seems like a big area of research in AI. So they kind of have to talk about it if they want people to accept it. Just a year ago or a year and a half ago when I was first starting to research this, what I was finding was dismissing it unless if you were it was actually referencing like CIA records. Because they've done this, they've researched it. And the thing is, it's not a secret. None of this is a secret. Like the government itself usually isn't doing the research. It's usually private contractors, right? So you talk about 60, 70 years of this research going on, and just think about all the people that know about it. There's some places on YouTube you can find videos about people talking about actually having attacks through people harassing them through this synthetic telepathy. I had no awareness of this until it actually happened to me. This was like back in 2024 when I had no idea who was behind it at first. I was just getting these messages that were like, I couldn't go and say this is harassment, but I knew that they were being directed towards me, and I didn't know who was doing it or who was behind it. Now I know it's my friends, but at the time I didn't know. And so anyway, there were 2 times when, well, it happened more than this, but there was 1 week where it happened 2 days in a row where I could tell it was like this, mental attack. It wasn't really, I don't even remember now because I don't remember the exact details of it, but I do remember that the first time it happened, I could tell that it was witchcraft. And the second time it happened, it was what I called it to myself was mechanical telepathy. And this was the interesting thing. The first time I could, I could tell it was an attack, like a psychic attack. And so I just prayed, and that was it. And I don't know if it was because the person behind it was, whoever is doing this like literal witchcraft, like basically, I mean, here's the thing. Yeah, so my connection was lost. Let me say it again. Demons are real, right? And the spirit world is real. If you're watching this, you're probably a Christian. This should not be coming as a shocker, right? And I've never been involved in that, so I don't know all the things people do. But anyway, I didn't know if it just stopped because the person that was doing it was weak, or if it was just because I'm a Christian, I plead the blood of Jesus over it. And this is a thing between, some people get freaked out about demons. Demons have to, they're bound by the law. They have to submit to the authority of Christ. It's the humans you got to worry about because they do whatever they want. So anyway, that was that, right? And then the next time when it was what I called the mechanical telepathy, it was a lot stronger. It was a lot more difficult I was praying. I really could not even, and my verses weren't coming to my mind. I had to literally pull out my Bible to read a verse, to combat it. But it was still the same thing. I just, prayed, and I went to Psalms 23. Literally went to Psalms 23. And it was at that moment that God gave me one of the clearest promises that I've had, that I've been holding on to through this whole thing. But let me just say this. There's a lot of unscrupulous people out there. If they can get money for harassing and tormenting somebody, I mean, even not even getting money, if they just they're such small people inside that they have to try to make themselves feel big by harassing other people, right? But that's not the only time that it happened. There's been, like I said, the people that these Christian friends, these white evangelicals, because I say that because I have a live stream, why white evangelicals think they can break the law. They think they're beyond it. They think rules don't apply to them. Whatever. That's the only thing I can think of. Anyway, they have, they're running all these AI-fueled sock puppet accounts. They have different clients that they do social media for. And I don't know if they still do, but at one point I know that they were promoting government accounts like the FBI that has not responded to anything and has basically, in my opinion, been giving cover for the criminals. So what other access they had to things, I don't know. But I know things that happened. There were other times when these attacks came. And here's the thing, it doesn't happen to me anymore. You want to know why? Because I started, when I could tell the attack came, at this point, I know who's behind it. If you know these people, you wouldn't be afraid of them anyway, because they're a bunch of putzes. I mean, they literally, here's the thing. I've always been like, I accept people as they are. Sometimes people are quirky, that's fine. I just accept them where they're at, however their personality is. People are people. That's just it. But these are not people to be afraid of. They're just not. They just have access to some things that they shouldn't, and they misuse them. But anyway, so at this point, when it came to a point where I was just so fed up and disgusted with all of them, I was like, you know what? Forget this. I've been reporting it to authorities. They do nothing. I can't remember. I was live streaming. Nothing was happening. I had been posting. If you look at my Twitter feed, I've been posting. It's like, you guys are a bunch of idiots. You're going to be exposed. You're not going to be getting away with this. They still continue on thinking they are. And so I thought, you know what? If I can tell that there is this mental attack coming against me, I'm just going to imagine beating the shit out of them. And that's what I did. So this is my advice to you. If you think that this is happening to you, I mean, don't respond to them verbally, because what does that do? You return the same thing that's happening to you in the same way. It's your mind, it's your world, right? Somebody comes intruding in and harassing you. Imagine just annihilating them in your brain. Just in your brain. Just this is what I do. Like some of those cartoons where you have this like Bam Bam slamming people back and forth. Yeah, I imagine that sometimes. I imagine channel a little bit of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and imagine ripping their heart out. I know that sounds violent, but this is a thing. Again, like if you come in a place where you're not supposed to be, you're going to get what you get. Because I'm not playing about any of this. Somebody has a mental attack against me, it's going to be returned to them sevenfold. Somebody comes and steals my intellectual property, I'm going to report you. You come against anything of mine, I'm not going to sit back and take your abuse, allow the theft to go on, nothing. And as far as the mental attacks, if you don't believe me, well, okay, I hope you never experience it. But if you do, remember what I said. And like I said, I could tell that there were two different kinds of attacks. If it's not, I think if it's mechanical, I think it's just, I don't know. I mean, literally, since I learned about it, I've been just trying to reclaim my identity and keep people out of my accounts. I haven't really had time. It hasn't been higher on my list of priorities to research it. But I think that if it's something that's being used by a device and it's mechanical, my thought is it's probably just a matter of willpower, right? And if you are, it's your brain, it's your mind, you have the home court advantage, right? The other thing too is I don't know about this, but I'm guessing that, if you're on medication, that might be, maybe that might interfere. I don't know. But if it's a witchcraft attack, you need to make sure you're under the blood before you try to fight that one, because it's like, reading the Bible where the seven sons of Sceva tried to use Jesus' name to cast out demons, and they, beat them and drove them out of the city. It's not, that's what I think it's Paul writes, we don't babble mindlessly like heathens do. It's not, you're not reading a spell. You're not, saying the words. It's not a formula, right? It's about actually putting your trust in the one who created the world and has authority over all those powers and principalities, right? So you have to make sure that you're positioned right before you start trying to battle on grounds that you don't really have a basis for. I'm just saying, if you're a Christian and you know Jesus is your Lord, then just put yourself under His authority and just say, "Hey, Lord, bind this attack and people in the name of Jesus," and have them go. And I don't know. I'm just saying that it doesn't. I don't get those kinds of things anymore. And I have no idea whether it makes a difference or not on the person receiving it, but I'm just saying, it stopped. The other thing I would recommend this is just generally, when we're talking about this manipulation, cut off the source of the manipulation. My generation, Gen X, we know you don't have to have a phone attached to you all the time. Maybe limit social media so there's not as much out there. Don't put as much as your personal information out there. Be cautious about the people that you connect to, right? Limit the trail. And also, as far as mentally and spiritually, make sure that you're walking in peace as much as you can. And that means that we have to a lot of people refer to it as keeping short accounts with God. Confess what you need to, be constantly going to Him and say, Lord, clean me up, make me right. I think one of the Catholic sayings is, Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner, right? Keep me from lying to myself. That's in a psalm. But when you're centered and you have that rest, you can tell when something is coming against you that's off, right? And so when you start losing that peace, then you can see, okay, what's going on here? If you are used to reading God's word, hearing His voice, then you know what His voice sounds like, right? And I think that also helps you identify more what your voice is, what your thoughts are, because I did a book review early on about Invisible Enemies, and which is a book on deliverance by Jim Croft. And in that, I share an account where I was praying for something, and there was this voice or mental thought, right? Don't waste prayer on something like that. Save it for something important. And that was the first time that I realized what demonic suggestion is like, because it wasn't my thought. That wasn't mine. That's not what I was thinking. So, there's God's voice, there's your thoughts, right? But there's also demonic thoughts. And then apparently there's also thoughts by people operating demonically through mechanisms, right? So when it's God's thought, it's not like up in your head. I mean, you do think it, but it's like, I don't know how to explain it other than it's like grounded in your gut more. You feel the peace, like starts in your gut, and it's like you feel it through your heart. You know that that's what the Lord is saying. Your thoughts are more, it's kind of like centered here, like around your throat, right? But external thoughts, I think, are that wherever the source is, it's more like just in your head. And so if it's only just in your head, if you haven't paid attention to where thoughts are coming from, I don't know if I'm explaining it right, but just if you want to, I would first say, learn how to hear God's voice, right? That's your north. And then you learn how to distinguish the rest, and just pray about it. Say, God, I want to be able to hear your voice clearly. I also want to be able to distinguish. It's more of a gift of distinguishing of spirits, right? Like, where is this coming from? And the primary way that you do this is you first have to know what He's already said, and that is by reading the Bible, right? So I have over 100 Bible studies on my channel. If the Bible seems overwhelming to you, start there. I would say start with my series on the reasons for Easter. But the other one that I would strongly recommend, this is just for strengthening your mind and guarding your emotions, is to read through the Psalms. And I have a series on my website, Reading Through the Psalms in 50 Days. So you read 3 Psalms a day for 50 days. Even if you don't, I would say just read 1 Psalm a day. And the reason that I say that is because the Psalms really tell you who God is. It's about, His faithfulness, His love for us. These were written during sometimes severe times of stress, right? By David, by others. And I think that going through this right now, if I hadn't been reading through the Psalms at least once a year, if not multiple times a year, since like 2012, I don't know that I would have had, I think it would have been a lot more difficult, honestly. But I have been reading through the Psalms, and when something comes up, even if I'm have a tendency to go back into a lack of confidence in what God has told me, there'll be a verse that comes up from the Psalms, right? Because again, I've read it so much that those verses have become a part of me. And there is another verse, Psalm that says, I've hidden your words my heart so that I might not sin against you. That's one thing. But we also need to have his word in our hearts so that when we come up against evil, and that's what all this is, it's evil, that we have something to stand on, that we're grounded in our faith, not just thinking, oh, we're going to believe something. We're going to just, I have this feeling about things. No, we have to be grounded in his word. We have to have a reason for what we believe, right? So anyway, that is my, I gotta go, but that's it for today. If you want to get updates about this, my live stream, then go and sign up at resources@racetowalk.org. But anyway, thanks for watching.